Hey everyone, it's Jonathan, and welcome to the first of our month-long holiday spectacular. This year we're kicking off the season with a massive film, one both obscure and forgotten by most of the world, but also notorious and infamous, hated by its creator, loathed and loved by millions everywhere, but for all the wrong reasons, the Star Wars Holiday Special. I've known of the existence of this film for years. It's been whispered about in all the nerdiest corners of the internet, which I've frequented ever since I started watching Star Wars at like 14 or 15 or whenever I first saw the main series. But I didn't realize there was any way that I could actually see this hilarious tragedy for myself until now. Thanks to my good friend Nicki from Trivia Theater, now you too will be subjected to all the beautiful chaos this cherished holiday feature has to offer. B. Arthur as a singing barmaid on Tatooine, Harvey Korman as a four-armed Julia Child-esque alien, and a grandma-style hairdryer that plays not grandma-friendly videos for a creepy, toothless grandpa. Seriously, this movie, despite the baffling mess it turned out to be, was so much fun to talk about. And once you finish this episode, stick around because there's another bonus episode coming where Nicki and I spent almost 20 minutes reading hilarious reviews of this beautiful masterpiece and go off on several completely irrelevant but also hilarious tangents. Not that we didn't do that within the episode itself. This movie just so easily lends itself to tangents. But if you want more hilarious conversation, make sure you come back for the bonus episode. Anyway, that's all for now. Let's kick off this Life Day season in the best way possible and talk all about George Lucas's incomparable masterpiece, the Star Wars Holiday Special.
The trivia on this is pretty fun too, so once we get to that point.
Okay, yeah. I was gonna say, hopefully you've got some good trivia, otherwise it'll just be me being baffled by so much of this.
Well, that is pretty much the general state of being when you're talking about this particular movie. I mean, I don't know. There's no way to describe this. They're really like, I don't know the thought process behind it, like the people and the thought processes, but it's just like, it's so strange. And George Lucas has some pretty funny takes too, so.
So, I remember reading some things about it a long time ago. How much was he involved in this?
To my knowledge, it wasn't like over like well, it's George Lucas, so he's gonna have a fair amount over it, but actually let me look that up because I am actually not 100% sure.
Well, the reason I'm asking is because if he's so against anyone ever watching this again, how did he let it get to the point where he hated it that much if he's making it?
It was the 70s. Let me just look it up here quick because I honestly like for some reason I don't think he had a ton of input on this.
I feel like I read at some point that he had given, not like given away all power to somebody, but like he left it in someone's hands. And by the time he like figured out that it was a train wreck, it was too late to fix because it had to air.
Yeah, exactly. So according to this, I mean, it would have been under like TV show production. Someone would have had to book all the acts and kind of coordinate all that. So it's a George Lucas himself was not really involved with production, but did attend some production meetings and encouraged the creatives on the special to include the character of Boba Fett in the cartoon segment.
Okay.
For whatever that's worth. So he had input. He probably was like, hey, Mark Hamill, Harrison Ford, Carrie Fisher, be part of this. It'd be great.
Just from looking at them while they're acting, did you think that they looked like they were having a good time?
I will put it to you this way. Harrison Ford, after the first one, the first Star Wars movie, wanted to be like killed off. Like that was that was I think that's pretty well known.
Yeah.
Mark Hamill was coming off of a really severe surgery. Okay, his face was heavily made up because he was recovering from reconstructive surgery because he had a car accident not that long before that. So you look at his face in A New Hope, and then you see his face in Empire Strikes Back, He's got a pretty severe scar down the side of his cheek.
Mm-hmm.
Like his face is very different.
Yeah, I
That
think we
was
talked
because,
about some of this when we talked about Empire, but I didn't
yeah.
realize that that almost coincided with the holiday special.
Well, I think it was the holiday special happened before all this, or the sorry, after his accident.
Yeah,
But
yeah.
yeah, they went hardcore on the makeup, probably a little bit much. And with Carrie Fisher, I've heard people joke because like those like the 70s retrospectives, you had a bunch of people talking about it and they were like, well, that was in the middle of Carrie Fisher's like cocaine stage. Now how much truth there is to that, I really don't know, but yeah, she was very zen.
I was gonna say she looked like she was the only one who was like maybe actually having a good time and not being forced to be there.
Right. And I'm honestly not sure about her state of mind, but I think there was definitely she was either like okay, just grin and bear it, or there was other substances involved. I mean, and you look at like Anthony Daniels, he always shows up and does the Star Wars thing because he's a good sport.
Mm-hmm.
Or it seems like he is.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I wasn't sure with Luke. He was like I didn't have too much thought about him, but Han, he just seemed so wooden.
Yeah, he was very dead-eyed and destitute, wasn't he?
Especially in the scenes, it was almost like so out of character when he's like showing so much love and affection for the Wookiees. It was like this does not feel like Han Solo.
Chewie, you are my family. I love you. Or you mean more to me than anything.
And I think he called the baby Sweetie at one point.
Oh, probably. Yeah, the only human like that was actually on Kashyyyk that seemed like they were having a good time was Art Carney.
That was the shopkeeper.
Yep, exactly. And
Okay.
actually, his name was Sal Dan, and apparently he was an early inspiration for Lando Calrissian.
Huh. Okay. I suppose I could kind of see that with his mannerisms.
Yeah, kind of this like the attempted smooth guy.
Yeah.
Now the way I looked it up, the way this plays out was A New Hope came out in May of 77, and then this came out in November, a week before Thanksgiving in 78, and then Empire Strikes Back came out in May of 1980.
Okay.
So if that gives you kind of perspective on when everything fell.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, Bruce Valanche actually wrote this, it looks like. And he's known for a wide variety of interesting things.
I know
So
the name. I'm trying to think of who he was.
all right, so this is how it apparently went down. George Lucas came up with the idea of focusing on Chewie's family. Writer Bruce Valanche objected, saying the dialogue would all be in Wookiee, and I have thoughts on that, which we can get to in a bit.
So did I.
He worried it would turn into one long episode of Lassie, but Lucas refused to change it. So initially, Lucas intended for the story of Chewie's family to appear somewhere in the Star Wars saga.
How? I'm sure the answer is none. But is there any of this that is now considered canon, or is this all just completely written off?
Well, you have like the Star Wars, like the Lego special, which pulls some of the stuff from this.
Oh, I forgot about that. I was going to suggest we do that too, and then I forgot.
Yeah, I'm game for it if you are.
We could do a different episode.
Okay, so it looks like Bruce Valanche mainly did live TV. So he's a writer for like all kinds of Academy Awards episodes, Hollywood Salutes, Fashion Awards. He wrote the Brady Bunch Variety Hour back in the 70s. And like you could go into a whole thing about those like 70s and 80s variety shows because they were completely like they were a beast of their own type
I'm
just in what they
familiar with
did.
like the Carol Burnett show because I used to watch that with like clips on YouTube. My cousins went through a phase where like every time I went over there, we'd watch Carol Burnett show. So I know the format.
Right. So these were like the variety shows were like one like for the most part one-offs. Like you had a Sonny and Cher Christmas special, you had the Star Wars one, there was the Brady Variety Hour. So they'd be playing their characters, but then they'd be doing like musical numbers and dances and whatever else. So if you go back to like the early 2000s, oh gosh, Jessica Simpson and Nick, her husband at that point, like they tried to bring back the variety show. So it's just like I guess, laid back musical acts and magic acts, and just
Hmm.
someone able to juggle and kind of a
Like the Muppet Show.
yeah, to some extent, only not quite as cool. And this was Star Wars' take on that.
Yeah, it totally, those two things do not seem like they would go together, and they don't.
Yeah, yeah, it's a thing. I mean, props to them for like the expansive, like they tried to be expansive with it. They covered Kashyyyk, they covered where Luke was, they covered Tatooine, they covered a lot of areas, and they tried to think outside the box. It's just it went strange. It really truly I don't I don't know how to do it, or I don't know how to explain it.
It's one of those things where you barely can explain it. You just have to have somebody watch it so they understand what a hodgepodge of weird, conflicting ideas.
Well, and even the very simple point of who, there's always that thing about who was this made for.
Yeah. Who was
It's
it? Like, I'm assuming little kids, because I can't imagine that regular Star Wars fans would genuinely like this.
Well, you have to think back too. At that point, the only movie, even though it was a rousing success, the only Star Wars movie there was A New Hope.
Hmm.
Like it was just Star Wars. So you're talking about something done a year and a half after the initial movie came out, and maybe that was common back then. But you're taking these characters that, oh yeah, I remember seeing, Luke in the theater. Oh yeah, I can remember Leia or whatever. But I mean, that was your only connection to this.
Hmm.
All this other stuff, like there's the walking carpet has relatives. What?
I mean, on paper, a lot of this seems like it'd be a good idea, but in execution, it did not work very well.
No. And you can, in retrospect, you can probably look at it and be like, you know what? They tried. But yeah, just the combination of, and regarded B. Arthur and Harvey Korman were much younger, but if you're talking kids or, family entertainment, B. Arthur, well, maybe so. I guess I'm trying to think what she would have been in at that time. Like Harvey Korman would have probably been in, like, he would have
Carol
been in
Burnett
Blazing,
show.
yeah, Carol Burnett show, Blazing Saddles. B. Arthur would have been maybe Maud at that point, or maybe that was after. I suppose she was known. And art, like, the jokes don't sit for kids per se. Like,
Not
not even
really.
the
No.
cartoon is really all that kiddie.
The cartoon was so ugly. What?
Yeah.
Who
And that's
designed that?
I don't know. But the one thing about it is that's considered to be like the most watchable part of that movie.
I
The rest of
know. uh, this, this is so bizarre. There's so
and
much bizarre stuff in here.
the grandpa, like Itchy. I just
He's like nightmare fuel.
Oh, he is. And his whole, like, when he's got like the hair dryer thing over his head, like the hologram thing.
It was
That
like some sort of meditation ASMR thing, but like on psychotropics.
well, actually, back then, let's see here, where is it? According to one of the producers, the sequence with her name was Diane Carroll, was intended to be soft core that would pass the censors.
It seemed like she was leaning a little into being seductive, but it
Yes.
was so bizarre that I don't know how anyone would like. I mean, the grandpa was into it, so who knows?
Oh yeah.
Whatever.
He was very into it. I still like, and I guess you have to take it for what it is, but like, and maybe just the 70s was a different beast, but why would you put that as part of it? Like even Jefferson Airship,
Yeah,
like that's,
yeah.
I don't know. I never thought that they were that mainstream. I mean, obviously they were mainstream to some extent, but mainstream to kids? Like I could see teens and adults, but kids?
I don't know.
Like why wouldn't you go Sonny and Cher or someone that's
Maybe they were going for an all ages thing with all these different people, and then they just failed.
yeah. It was something where it felt like about half of it could have been cut and nothing would have been lost.
Yeah, I could have cut a lot more than half.
I'm trying to be generous. It's a spirit of Christmas.
Some of it could have been helped by significant rewrites.
Mm-hmm.
Because there are some good ideas here.
Oh yeah, definitely so.
But like I said, execution was not good.
No, not even remotely. And just the like the whole, and I guess once we get into it talking about it, we can talk about it more, but just the decisions that were made, even just with the Wookiees, like when they weren't talking with humans, that there was that lack, that disconnect of, okay, you're trying, this poor actor in a giant Wookiee costume is probably sweating their poor head off, is sitting there trying to say, trying to, mime
Trying to
let's eat,
show
or
some sort of emotion.
yeah. Although they emoted better than Harrison Ford.
that's true, actually.
Oh god. It is interesting to see like how this kind of like, you saw like some of the things in this that were later brought into Star Wars. Like, this was the first appearance of Boba Fett.
Yeah.
You know, it was a lot of the footage that was used for the cantina scene on Tatooine was stuff that was deleted scenes from the original movie.
Oh, okay. I thought it looked like they brought in a ton of costumes. Like they brought a ton of costumes back. I was like, they really mined the archives for that. But apparently, just mostly footage, I guess.
It was kind of a combination. So the stuff outside the actual cantina was stuff that was shot for the movie but not used. The stuff
Okay.
inside the cantina was all shot specifically for the special, or
Okay, so
most of
they
it.
did dig out a bunch of costumes then, because a lot of
They
them were
did.
costumes that were there in the original film,
They
because I
very much did.
recognized them.
Yep, exactly. And they
Although there
actually
was
had to
one that
rename
was like
them.
a giant cute mouse. I was like, what is that? I've never seen that in Star Wars before.
Let me look it up real quick because I do remember running across that. Let's see. Okay, the large rat white or the large white rat puppet in the cantina scene was made for the Food of Gods in 1976. It's referred to as the Rin or the Tin Tin Dwarf of the Star Wars universe.
Okay.
Okay, so it was a Burt I. Gordon movie based on a novel by H.G. Wells. And for some reason, they pulled it into the Star Wars special.
Did you say an H.G. Wells?
It was an H.G. Wells novel, and it was a Burt I. Gordon movie. So it was like really low budget, kind of B movie. A group of
Huh.
friends travel to a remote Canadian island to hunt, only to be attacked by giant killer animals that have populated the place.
Interesting.
Yes. So they pulled this giant mouse or rat puppet and brought it into the cantina scene.
And it's called The Food of the Gods.
Yes.
I'm making a note of that.
From 1976.
I kind of want to see this.
Yeah, absolutely. Interesting point though, they did actually with all the, like, you talked about the costumes and masks being, from the original. They actually are all from the original. They just repainted them. So they pulled them out of storage, touched them up, and then used them for this.
Okay.
The only problem was it was really hot and no one could breathe, and so they actually had to be on oxygen in between takes.
Ugh.
Yeah.
Well, I guess we could probably start at the beginning of this thing and go through it because every scene has things we'll probably want to talk about.
Oh yeah, I don't doubt that at all. I imagine you have pages upon pages of notes.
I just took them on my phone and I'm scrolling for quite a while. I don't know how many pages it is.
We'll just call it several and call it good.
Yes. I thought it was kind of funny that it started out, and maybe this is obviously not from the special itself, but I'm sure it's on like most of the copies with a disclaimer that says the Incredible Hulk will not be presented this evening.
Yeah.
And I scrolled down to the comments, and there are tons of, like, at the end of this thing I want to read some comments, but there was a bunch of comments that were like the last thing you hear before disaster.
Oh god. There was actually that there was some countdown of like the worst TV where is it? Oh, here we go. Listed in the book, what were they thinking? The 100 dumbest events in television history. At the number one spot is the Star Wars Holiday Special, the worst 2 hours of television. Dot 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 ever.
I would say they're exaggerating, but I'm trying to think of something worse right off the top of my head another's coming. So
Oh god. Well, if it tells you anything, there was a planned set of action figures based off of the special,
I
and
mean, of
it got.
course.
Oh yeah, absolutely. But yeah, they never happened because they canceled it because of how bad the thing was.
I want to be Arthur Barmaid.
Hey, she was pretty awesome. That and Harvey Korman as the guy with the lava head or the volcano head.
That's what I called him in my notes. Was Volcano Head.
Appropriate, very very appropriate. Oh, and just the response. Harrison Ford doesn't remember appearing in this, but
Is this purposeful amnesia?
exactly.
It's too traumatic to remember, so he just purposely forgot.
Exactly. George Lucas tried to buy back every single copy, but never had any luck doing that. He also said that if he could, he would track down every single copy and destroy it.
I mean, he'd have to go straight to YouTube and destroy YouTube because that's how we watch this.
Oh, 100%. Well, that was. Well, I mean, it was like the bootleg tapes. This is YouTube is really just a modern day bootleg, tape, really.
And for some things, if the I'm just surprised that nobody's like reported this thing for
Right.
copyright.
Well, the thing is, if you report it for copyright, you have to claim ownership. And George
I think
Lucas
there might have been a
never.
comment saying something like that.
It goes to show you that everything survives, or most things survive in some form. Not always fully, but as much as possible.
Well, this thing starts with a cold open, which is very out of character for Star Wars, with Han Solo and Chewbacca trying to get back to his family in time for Life Day, which is apparently the Star Wars universe equivalent of Christmas.
Well, it's it is actually closer because I saw a comment on that. It's actually closer to like the way it's celebrated. It's closer to Thanksgiving in how it's
Oh,
celebrated.
okay. Okay.
But I mean, grand scheme for more of the world, it'd be considered closer to Christmas.
Yeah.
But it's just that I'm thankful for this, that, the other thing. So
Mm-hmm. Well, then after like some sort of kerfuffle with the Empire, there's
good way to put it.
the opening credits, and they have like a narrator talking about introducing Chewbacca's family. It doesn't like say on the screen what their names are. It's just like voiceover, and I didn't know what the mom's name was, so I wrote down Nala. But I think people later were saying Mala
Yep,
with an M.
it's Mala. It's Malakabak, I think is her like full name. Like Chewbacca is the longer form of Chewie.
Uh-huh.
Lumbaroo is Lumpy, and then I don't remember what Itchy was. I really don't want to
Lumberoo.
remember. Can you imagine? Hey, Lumpy. Hey, Itchy. I mean, Mala is the only one with any kind of dignified name.
Yeah, I mean, I guess Itchy sort of works because I feel itchy looking at his creepy face.
Yeah, well, yeah, the whole like where his mouth comes up like it's almost uh like a hook or something, or not a hook, but like a bottom part of a beak.
He has some sort of a severe underbite mixed with no teeth,
Yeah.
which combined is pretty creepy in a giant monkey person.
Yes.
But none, even though he's like the worst looking one, but none of them look that attractive.
Yeah. Yeah.
The baby is, I mean, it's like, is he supposed to be cute? Because he's not cute.
I'm assuming he's supposed to be cute, but we're talking 70s cute here, so I mean,
They had different standards in the 70s.
yeah, I guess something like that. Yeah. Oh, it says the vocalizations of Mala and Itchy are from bears and lions at the Olympic game farm in Washington. Lumpy's vocalizations are of a baby bear.
Oh, okay. I can hear that. Yeah. Well, at one point I was like, are they mixing the sounds of the tauntauns with something else? But yeah, Baby Bear makes sense. But he did sound like a tauntaun at the beginning, I thought.
Oh yeah. Well, and I'm sure the tauntauns were probably reused. Like
Oh
I'm
yeah,
sure
they
that
might
they
have.
probably figured things like that. So
Yeah. Well, then after you see his family in the credits, it says with special guest stars Beatrice Arthur, Art Carney, Diane Carroll, the Jefferson Starship, and Harvey Korman, which is like a who's who of 70 stars, apparently.
yeah, I would say so. Not necessarily ones that would be. I mean, I could see Harvey Korman being pretty family friendly. I don't know about B. Arthur. The only I know she was in Maud and she was in Golden Girls, but beyond that, I can't tell you what she was in.
Yeah, I don't. I knew the name from Golden Girls. I guess I've heard the name Maud. I don't know what it is,
Mm-hmm.
but
It's
I don't
just a
know
movie,
much.
or it was a TV show from the I thought the 70s or 80s, like late 70s, early
Probably.
80s.
Yeah, but beyond that, I don't know what else she's in because I'm not up on my 70s stars.
It's
The
okay.
only one I was really familiar with was Harvey Korman because I've watched so much of the Carol Burnett show.
Same. I grew up on it as well. So, it says here the Stan Winston was hired to design the Wookiee family, and he's pretty well known for like character effects.
Well, they did. The faces moved decently, even though they're ugly. They weren't incompetently made. They weren't just big rubber masks.
Right, right. They did have they didn't have the ability to emote as well as Chewie.
No, I don't think so. That was my biggest problem with them beyond Nightmare Grandpa.
Right. Oh man, Lumpy, I felt bad for the guy playing him. Man, he had some weird teeth going on. Like just the intensity of his stare was very weird.
Yeah. So after introduced to all the fabulous guest stars, it shows where the Wookiees live, and they live in tree houses, which we saw in the third Star Wars film. But
Yep.
this is just a matte painting instead of fully realized sets and 3D worlds.
Yeah, very much so. And it's interesting because the in everything I've seen, like by Star Wars canon, the Wookiee homeworld is called Kashyyyk,
Yeah,
and
I think
here
it
it's
has three
called
Y's.
yep, exactly. And here it's called Kazook.
I thought I heard them say something that was not Kashyyyk, and I was like, what? But I didn't rewind to find out.
No worries. It is interesting too because of, and I don't know about Itchy, but definitely Mala and Lumpy, they weren't canon at first, but eventually they do become canon because like in the I can't get it. I know I'm gonna screw this up. The original Star Wars books before Disney bought Star Wars,
Mm-hmm.
like those books feature quite a lot of Lumpy and Mala when
Okay.
Chewie goes back to visit his family and such. So I guess it's
Okay.
expanded universe maybe,
Okay. Yeah.
or legends or something like I don't remember what.
Legends is what they call them now. Yeah.
Okay, so they appear there, so they are canon. They do expand them out eventually in the books in the 90s and 2000s. So
Okay. I wonder if they'll recanonize them in the new continuity at some point.
I'm not sure. I guess I haven't read any of the new books to be able to tell you one way or the other.
I
I would
mean, they should
imagine
just make
they're.
a new movie. They're making so many movies. They got to give us that baby Lumpy's first adventure
Oh
movie.
God. They do actually go into there's I think there's either a short story or something that does talk about Lumpy's becoming a man. Like so they go through like a rite of passage. They have to like go and hunt down a thing and then you have to like do all these tasks and then you complete the tasks and then you're officially a man
Okay.
amongst the Wookiees. But
Okay.
again, that's another thing. That's a whole other thing entirely.
There's this whole thing at the beginning with the babies running around and the grandpa is roaring at him. And I think the mom, I thought she wanted to give him a bath, but I think she was trying to get him to help with chores.
Yeah, I think you're right.
And at one point, he's like climbing on the railing outside, and I thought he was going to plunge to his death.
Well, and the thing about the trees of Kashyyyk, they are like what are they called? Like the General Sherman, the tallest tree on Earth would
Okay.
be like a small tree there.
Oh,
Like their
okay.
trees go up miles.
Well, that stormtrooper at the end definitely died then.
Yeah, he became a white smudge on the planet surface.
Then we get into one of the main problems of this whole thing. The mom
There's
and
only one.
grandpa, this is like the first big problem. The mom and grandpa are having this long conversation, presumably about Chewbacca, but you don't understand any of it.
Nope.
It's like,
Flailing arm gestures only get you so far.
yeah, I'm like, who thought this was a good idea? As a concept, I like the idea of having a window into an alien life that you can't understand. But it went on for a long time, and this is supposed to be a show that the whole family can enjoy,
Yeah.
not some sort of sci-fi concept piece.
Yeah. There was no subtitles. There was no like you could sort of grasp a little bit about what they were talking about. Like you say, it
Hmm.
was probably talking about Chewie, but beyond that, no. The
Yeah,
thing that killed me was how like everything else is in English. Like when they have a big like message window
yeah,
thing, like a basically a video telephone, and
yeah.
everything on that comes in English.
In the Star Wars universe, I believe that's called basic.
Ah, true. That's very true. I didn't think about that. They need
Everybody
to just
talks in English. Although in China, if somebody watches Star Wars in China, everything's probably in China. So is Chinese then basic?
maybe we'll have if you've ever seen Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy.
Yeah, the Babel fish.
Yep, exactly. Everybody's got a Babel fish.
Okay.
We'll just claim that. We'll just say, okay, route of least resistance, Babel fish.
At some point, the kid runs back inside. He's making all these weird noises, and I thought they were gonna play. What is it? Dejeric, the hollow chess game, because that's what this thing looks like. There's this big board in the room, but then he turns it on, and instead of those monsters that fight, there's all these weird little acrobats jumping around with this strange synth music, and one of them like sort of jumps out of the game. If it's a game, I don't know if it's a game. It's like giant in the room, but still a hologram. And like for most of this, it's just these tiny acrobats with this giant baby watching them.
See, now I kind of thought that the Dejaric board was more of like a just an entertainment thing. Like you plug in different things and
I
it
mean,
does
I
different
suppose
things.
it could be. I just, for some
No,
reason, I
agreed.
thought it was just one game. But I guess if you're going to have a piece of furniture, it might as well be multi-purpose.
Unless you really, really like Dejaric. I mean, there are people that have just, chess sets set up all the time. So,
Yeah, well, my grandparents had a table that the top was a chessboard, and it just sat in the room all the time. And I mean, the only thing anybody ever did was play chess, but most of the time it was just a table.
multi purpose. Good stuff.
Yes, it's chess and a table.
Yes, the chess table or
two
table
two
chess.
purposes is multi-purpose.
No doubt. All you need.
I suppose you could have played checkers too. Then it has three purposes.
Ooh, there you go. I like it.
And at some point after this acrobat show, the mom is wanting the baby to come over there, I think, to help with dishes. And I think the baby is whining. And it
Yep.
was like the most annoying whining noise ever.
Did it sound like a baby bear?
Now that you have said that, it does. But it just went on way too long.
Yeah, it did. But that is one thing, and I don't know about the holiday special so much being it was done for TV. But like the one thing about Star Wars, the early ones, it was so revolutionary in how it mixed sounds to get so many unique sounds. And I know we talked about this with Empire, but
Hmm. And at some point in here, I'm not sure what exactly she's looking for Han and Chewie, but I think she called traffic control because that's what came up on the screen. It said traffic control, and it says there's no starships in the area. It's like that's very strange that this planet has traffic control
well, being
just
that
to
they
look
had
for
they
a
were
certain
I,
ship.
I I think that they were since they were inhabited, not inhabited, but uh they were ruled by the Empire. I think that it was probably a case of like you had like the main ports, and according to official channels, there was no one coming in because she then go checks, with the secret radio to Rebel Command or
Yeah,
to
she
Luke.
calls Luke.
Yeah, so I'm sure she was checking official channels, and then because I'm sure to try and call illegally probably was
Yeah.
quite dangerous.
Yeah, when she called Luke, I thought to myself, we're like over 10 minutes in, and this is the first human language that we've heard.
Besides the announcer at the beginning.
That's true.
And he was very peppy.
In story human language.
Yeah, okay, fair.
So Luke tells them that Han and Chewie left a long time ago. They should be there by now, but he says they shouldn't worry. And then he tells Mala that she needs to smile. And she very creepily complies. Her smile is really creepy.
Yes, and the music that goes with it is so sweet, and then she's just like one other thing on the big video phone or whatever you want to call it, the amount of noises, I feel like they tried out a whole bunch of different noises to see what was going to work best, and they just kind of decided on all the noises. That thing sounded like an arcade in overdrive.
All of the machines that they used had the worst noises.
Yeah, it's just like, okay, use discretion. Think Star Wars. They never used more than what was needed for at least sound design.
Yeah. I don't think the same people worked on this.
I'm pretty sure not. They were out doing stuff for the next movie.
So, sometime after that phone call, she turns on a different machine, which I guess is also a phone, but I thought it was a TV. And it says something like Wookiee Planet C Trading Post. And then I was like, why is it Planet C? But maybe if you thought that they said, because what did you think they said?
They said Kazook.
So did that start with a C?
No, it started with a K, like
Oh,
Kashyyyk.
well, then why did they call it Planet C? I don't know.
Maybe it's just like a fancy name, like I don't even know, like Outpost 7 or something like that. Like it was,
Maybe.
I'm not sure. Otherwise, it could have been like something to do with Art Carney's name.
It could have been, because he's the one who's here.
Yep.
He's the shopkeeper, and he's trying to sell some things to an Imperial guard. He has this pocket-sized aquarium, and he's acting like it's the coolest thing ever, and the Imperial guard says he hates fish, so he says he does too. He's like, I just wanted to show you some of the stupid things the Wookiees buy.
And I think that could be part of his, and I'm not terribly familiar with Art Carney, like the kind of humor he did or the kind of comedy, but that could have been like some of his, some of his shtick.
It felt like something that wasn't part of this. Like, it felt like it was probably him, so I'm wondering how much of this he was ad-libbing.
That's highly possible.
So apparently, I don't know how much of this she's actually watching, because I thought she was watching this as a show. But then she's interacting with this guy, and apparently it's some kind of a phone. And she'd called him about a carpet, apparently. And he says that the carpet was made by a little old lady 4 planets away. And
That whole thing is actually code. So he was trying to say, because the Imperial Guard was in the background, the walking or the shaggy carpet was a reference to Chewie.
Oh, okay, that makes more sense, because he says that it was made by hand, Solo.
Yep, exactly.
I
That
was
was
like,
him
this is
trying
the
to.
dumbest joke ever.
No, he was trying to be like, he was not a infiltrator, but like he was trying to, or
Trying
he
to
was
keep it
part
on
of the
the down
rebel
low.
alliance. Yeah, so he was trying to be like an in between to let her know in as subtle a way as possible that they were on their way and not to worry.
That makes a lot more sense than what I was thinking. I was confused.
No worries. Happens to the best of us, believe me. And this special is so, it is hard to tell the difference between kind of weird humor and like actual semi-smart dialogue.
Yeah. Very much so. Then we get to Darth Vader's ship, and now that I'm seeing that in my notes, I'm thinking, was that the only time we saw Darth Vader in this whole thing?
Yep,
Was he
and it
just
was
like a
all
3-second cameo?
I'm pretty sure so, and I'm pretty sure that that footage, along with everything that was set in space with like the Falcon and the Star Destroyers and everything, was from the movie.
Okay, that makes sense.
And I'm guessing they just kind of like ADR'd, like, because
Yeah,
at that point he's talking to just another general or whatever. So
yeah, he's saying something like that they need to search every household in the system.
yep, exactly. And actually, this is the first time. The holiday special was the first time James Earl Jones was credited with performing the voice of Darth Vader.
Hmm. So
And then the next one.
he didn't get any credit in the original film?
That's what it sounds like here, but I have a hard time believing that. Let me go back here quick.
Well, I guess I've never seen the original. Maybe in the original Star Wars, he didn't get a credit, but he's got to have been edited into the credits at this point.
I would hope so. Oh yeah, voice unaccredited.
Huh.
Which I suppose at that point he wasn't. I mean, he had been acting for quite a long time 25 years since
Yeah.
1952.
You'd think
Yeah,
he would deserve a
25
little
years.
more recognition.
You'd think so, but I wonder how many other people were unaccredited. Obviously, the likes of Alec Guinness weren't, but yeah, that's weird. Huh. Well, you learn something new every day, right?
Yeah.
Harrison Ford was credited.
I'm sure he would have raised a fit if he wasn't.
Yeah. Wow, there were a lot of people that weren't. The guy that played Dr. Evazan, a bunch of Jawas, Darth Vader. I suppose if you weren't on camera much, like if you just had one or two lines,
Maybe so. Yeah.
and being that he was the voice and nothing else,
Yeah.
because it seems like a lot of voice people, at least according to IMDb, weren't credited. So that's probably what it was.
That used to happen a lot more. Like,
Yeah.
one of the worst things about the Snow White, the original Disney film, is that nobody was credited. Like, the
Oh,
voice actors. Specifically Snow White, because Walt didn't want people to. He wanted to preserve the illusion that Snow White was a real person, and saying that the voice was provided by someone else might break that illusion,
wow.
which is a really terrible excuse,
Yes, it
especially because she
is.
was like almost prevented from doing much anything else afterwards,
Right.
which so it was so annoying.
I
Like,
would
I mean, I
say.
love Walt Disney, but he did a lot of things that I absolutely do not agree with, and that's one of his
Yeah.
worst ones in my opinion.
Yeah, no,
But she
that's
she didn't mind, which I guess is nice. She talked about him so nice years later when she's an old lady. So
wow.
I guess
More
if,
gracious than a lot of people then.
yeah, really.
More than I'd be.
If it were me, I would think I would have held a grudge. But
Yeah.
she loved him anyway. So
Yeah. Well, it was a different time too, I
yeah, that's
suppose.
true.
But interesting side note. I like it. Learning something new. Look, I've learned so much stuff tonight. This is awesome.
We always go on interesting side notes.
We really do. I'm proud of that with us. Oh, the places we go.
So at some point the baby finishes washing the dishes. And I never called him Lumpy at all in my notes. I called him the baby. He's just the baby in my head. The baby, the
He's a
grandpa,
lumpy
and the
baby.
mom.
So he's not the creepy grandpa?
I just said the grandpa, but yes, he's a very creepy grandpa.
Well, and here's the question: is he Mala's dad or Chewie's dad?
Chewy's. It
Oh, is it?
specifically said that.
Oh, okay, I missed that.
And at some point, Han is talking to him and references his son.
Ah, okay. Okay, that makes sense.
So when the baby's gone, the mom goes back into the kitchen and turns on the TV. And I think she's watching some kind of instructional cooking program and trying
Yep.
to follow it.
It's like Julia Childs on crack.
I was gonna say, is it supposed to be a Julia Child parody? Because they did a terrible job of making it seem like Julia Child, especially when it's Harvey Korman. He could have really played this up and done a great Julia Child impression.
Well, I don't think it was like specifically Julia Child, but I'm assuming just knowing the cooking shows of that era, I'm thinking
Yeah,
that they probably pulled it from that generally. Like just kind of, okay,
probably.
we need a cooking show because, cooking show. Which I will add, there are so many like entertainment devices in that house.
I put that in my notes specifically. I said they have so many screens, and then I started thinking, yeah, I guess humans today though, so do we.
True. Very true.
Because I use myself two laptops. I have a Kindle and a phone. We've got the TV, and we've got numerous devices around the house that we don't use anymore, but we still have them. So we're no better than the Wookiees.
Well, goes to show you that, Star Wars was a little bit forward thinking when it comes to life. The only thing we're missing is not living in tree houses or
Why
sounding
couldn't we
like
have
baby
that?
bears.
I want to live in a tree house.
Don't blame
When
me
I was a
there.
kid, like my two biggest wishes for housing was an elaborate tree house like in Swiss Family Robinson or an underground house. Apparently like the Hobbits, but I hadn't read Lord of the Rings at that point. I just wanted an
Ah.
underground house that had a glass sunroof that I
Oh, that
could
would have
look
been
up.
cool. That would be awesome.
So she's watching this instructional cooking show with this weird space woman played by Harvey Korman.
Yes.
And throughout the
This
show,
whole thing.
she
Oh my god.
grows more limbs.
Yep.
I mean, I guess she was hiding them behind her for some reason, which is very strange that she would hide them and then reveal them.
Well, she
Like,
pulled them out as needed. I mean, if you don't need four arms out, why would you have four arms out?
maybe it's like Stitch in Lilo and Stitch. She could just suck them inside and reveal them at will.
Well, considering the size of her garments, I would not be surprised. I mean, if you just have to stir, 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 whip, stir, stir, you're not gonna have a, tasting hand and then what is the third arm? It's got like a mallet
Beat?
for
I think it was
beating. Yeah.
beating. the, all the instructions were just bizarre and nonsensical.
Yes.
And
Well,
at one
first,
point, she's eating the raw meat.
yes. Well, she starts off by putting all the stuff in, and she's like, "That's really good," and then she'd be like, "One for the pot and one for me."
Yeah, and it's raw meat.
Yes.
So apparently, this lady has a great digestive system.
Well, four-armed alien digestive systems work differently than two-armed Wookiees or two-armed humans. That whole part just it is. I think it really is a good metaphor for what this whole experience is. Truly, out of all of the like the little side variety show bits, this just describes it. It's like we don't know what's going on. They're talking in words that sort of make sense, but not really. There's a whisk that's brought out at one point, and then another whisk, and then a
There's a
whole
bunch
bunch
of
of other stuff.
reveals that don't make sense.
Exactly. Your
She
hair gets
becomes
all over the place.
she becomes more and more unhinged.
Honestly, I feel like it got more boring as it went along.
Yeah, in some ways it did.
Like the main story, like not so much the acts, but the main story just kind
Yeah,
of like, oh, here's a thing, and yeah.
yeah. The main story was very uneventful. Even though they tried to play up the drama, it didn't work.
Yeah, they went to cliffhangers right before each, I'm guessing, commercial break.
Yeah, that's probably what they were doing because I noticed there was a few things that it felt like, why are they doing that? Like the baby's almost getting caught watching some sort of rebel propaganda and there's a mysterious knock at the door. I guess that probably was made just for commercial breaks.
You have to keep the kids on edge so they come back.
At some point, like Chewbacca and Han Solo are being chased, which like is triggering an alert, I think. And like the whole planet is now in a blockade
Yep.
and nobody's allowed to take off or land. Except I think they're gonna like land on the other side of the planet in order to get around that. But like, are they just not monitoring the other side of the planet? Is the other side of the planet uninhabited? That didn't make a whole lot of sense, but whatever.
I think that Han and Chewie are they're just really good at sneaking on and off planets. I think that's probably what they're going with.
Okay,
I'm assuming
probably.
small details,
Yes.
It's more important that we know how many whipsters whips. You know.
Yeah. And then somebody's knocking on the door. Everybody's terrified, but it's the shopkeeper with deliveries and presents for Life Day. And he wants kisses from everybody except the grandpa. He didn't get a kiss from grandpa.
You know what? I am 100% okay with that. If he would have kissed the grandpa, based on the way the grandpa's face looks, that would have been, too much for TV. They would have had to cut it off right then and there. Nightmare fuel.
And he gives... we don't know what the mom's present is. The baby gets some sort of a transmitter device that you find out about later. But for now, we see the present that was for the grandpa, which is what we were talking about before, the virtual reality thing. And he tells him it's hard to describe. It's just like, wow.
It's a bow chicka wow wow type of device.
And it's like, I mean, some of like the visuals were kind of cool, but it went on for so long. It was so boring.
Yeah, she was a great singer. Like, her presentation was cool, her costume was cool.
Yeah.
But they just had to keep interjecting Itchy in there, and nobody needs to see that.
Yeah, like, I like the basic idea. Like, the psychedelic artistry was kind of cool.
Yeah.
But it just was way too long. Too long. And yeah, the creepy grandpa. that made it even worse.
I just imagine her, like, having to do all those lines. And she's like, who am I saying these lines to? Oh, one of the Wookiees. Oh, okay.
It looks like a deformed Bigfoot, and he's leering at you.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. Despite the fact he's got basically a gigantic hairdryer down over his face.
Yeah, it barely even covered his eyes, though. It just covered his forehead, mostly.
I'm glad that VR went in a different direction with that, though.
Yeah. Sometime after this weird hairdryer, they get another call. This one's from Princess Leia and C-3PO. They're looking for Han or Chewbacca. They're not there, so Leia tells the shopkeeper to take care of the family. And I was thinking, does Leia know this shopkeeper?
I think because he's like rebel, like a rebel person, she knows she can trust him.
Oh, that's true. Yeah, maybe he is like a contact then.
The one thing that got me, and I'm sure it's probably because this special went out to folks that would have seen Star Wars and those that wouldn't have, but she's so formal in how she asks for them. She's like, oh, is Han Solo or Chewbacca available? And it's like, I mean, I don't expect you to call him Honey Bunny and, Teddy Bear, but you could just call him Han or Chewie.
Laser brain in the walking carpet is what she should have asked for.
And that scruffy looking Nerf herder. Although I'm sure there probably would have been some little ladies clutching their pearls going, oh, what terrible slanderous things are they talking about now?
I think the pearl clutching old ladies would have turned it off at the weird hairdryer scene.
That or they would have been like, oh, I should need to get one of those hair dryers in my home.
At this point, after the phone call, a bunch of stormtroopers arrive. They're searching the house, and the shopkeeper tells them that Chewbacca isn't there because he had a terrible fight with Mala, and he stormed out. Which is a really weird excuse, and it didn't work because they stuck around.
Right. They stuck around a long time. I'm surprised they didn't sit down and ask for like a cup of tea or something.
Yeah, they were there way too long. And the shopkeeper, he distracts one of them with some sort of music video device, another device, but I think what I was thinking when I was talking about all the weird devices, and maybe this is like a subconscious thought that you had too, like why it stuck out so much is because there's so many screens, but every screen has a very weirdly specific purpose.
Yeah.
And this one, its weirdly specific purpose was only to watch a music video.
Very much so. And like, even being Jefferson Starship, I guess at the time, it would have been a different thing, but I mean, it was kind of like sort of animated and sort of live action. Like they kind of combined the two.
I
But
think
it was just
they were like rotoscoped effects over the music
yeah.
video.
Yeah, that would make sense actually. But you
Especially the
really
microphone, because it looked like the microphone was supposed to be like a weird pink lightsaber.
yeah. Like it didn't fit, and not that anything fit, like the acrobats didn't really fit, the
No.
Diane Carroll didn't really fit. But this didn't there was nothing about this, like the song wasn't anything about, I guess it's called Light on the Sky on Fire was the name of the song, but it didn't like, I don't, it didn't relate back to a ton besides saying okay, light in the sky. I suppose you could say that's like that, but I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know. But it lasted forever.
Yeah, that's kind of every, like they were
Yeah,
stretching for time.
yes. Every little weird vignette with another character that we don't know lasted forever.
And as bad as everything to this point has been, there's one that's coming up that's so much worse.
So this music video only distracts the one officer. The rest of them are searching the rest of the house, and they force the shopkeeper to leave. And for some reason, in the midst of all of this, I don't know what the cartoon is, but the baby starts watching a cartoon about the rebels, including his father. And I don't know if it's supposed to be like rebel propaganda or like an actual thing that happened, like a recreation of a historical event. I have no idea what it's supposed to be, but the baby is watching this, and it's obviously something that only rebels are supposed to be seeing. So the baby is really dumb.
Okay, according to this, it was meant to be an in-universe flashback. So
Really?
it's supposed to, yeah, so intended as an in-universe flashback, Luke wears a yellow jacket similar to his outfit at the end of A New Hope. It features Boba Fett, whose appearance was based on footage of an unpainted costume from The Empire Strikes Back. Simplified color scheme for the cartoon was later repeated for Fett's appearance in Droids. So
So this is supposed to be like a real thing that happened. So
apparently,
why did they make it in animation and not film it?
maybe for time and just money, I suppose. Not
No,
that
I mean
animation is.
like the rebels.
Oh, I don't know.
Like why does it look like this? Like
Uh,
I want a canon answer to why this is this ugly animation.
it is, and it's just the way it moves is so strange.
And Han looks like a horseman.
He does, and when he's like got his hand on his head and he's just talking, like nothing moves right. I mean, 3P
No.
or R2D2, like everything, like his
He's
the
like made of
pieces.
rubber.
Yeah, it's nuts. Like even the voice work, like, and again we talked about this, but God, Harrison Ford just, he ain't having any of it, you know.
Yeah, no, he's not having a great time.
He had to be like basically prodded into doing this, it looks like.
Well, at least he's unconscious for most of the cartoon, so he didn't have to do a whole lot of voice acting.
Yeah, exactly. The it was actually called, the title of it was actually The Faithful Wookiee, the story of the faithful Wookiee.
Okay. I think I knew that. It sounds familiar. They put the cartoon on Disney Plus. They probably called it that for Disney Plus. That's probably why I know the name.
Yeah, they wouldn't want to call it the Star Wars Holiday Special.
No, they only cut out the cartoon. The special is nowhere to be found on there.
No, I wouldn't be surprised. That's probably why they came up with the Lego Holiday Special to replace the original.
Is that like the conspiracy theory of they named Frozen so that when people search for Disney Frozen, they won't find any of the Disney Frozen head or whatever the conspiracy theory says?
I would not be surprised.
They replaced the Google searches for the holiday special. Now the Lego holiday special shows up instead.
Someone in the background drops an evil laugh. This whole thing is just, how do you describe this? I know we've talked about that, and we're only halfway through talking about this thing, but
Well, I guess we should probably talk about the story of the cartoon because there's some weird stuff in this too.
Is there?
The whole thing is weird.
Well, yeah,
They're
yeah.
they're looking for a talisman that apparently makes things invisible, which okay. I mean, I guess there's magical stuff in Star Wars, so I guess that's fine. That just seemed really weird to me. But the talisman apparently makes people sick instead, or maybe both. It does both. I don't know.
Probably both.
And Han and Chewie are in distress because of this thing, so Luke, R2D2, and C3PO have to go after them. And Leia's in the beginning, and she has giant eyes. She took the eye space from Han, who has tiny little slits for eyes.
Well, and Luke goes back and forth between having giant eyes and tiny eyes, depending upon where he's at. And then Boba Fett has like a little third eye, like above, like on the above the slit in his helmet.
Really? I did not notice that.
Mm-hmm.
Huh. Well, that would answer one of my questions then, because maybe at this point Boba was not supposed to be a human, because you never see his face, and then this talisman thing supposedly only affects humans. So I was like, well, why isn't Boba Fett being affected by it? So maybe at that point they didn't think he was going to be a human.
That's possible. I mean, this was his first introduction. There wasn't really anything known about the character.
Okay.
And this would have been early enough on in production where they may not have, they might still have been in the process of animation or of writing and whatnot.
Mm-hmm. The one thing that I do really like about this animated part is the planet that they land on, because it's completely unlike anything else you've ever seen in Star Wars, because it seems like it's made of jello.
That could have just been
But
the
in a
fact,
cool
like
way.
yeah, I was gonna say it's like everything else, in this thing, it's everything's made of jello in this cartoon.
Yeah, but this is like everything, like the ground and the water, or maybe it's both, I don't know. It's all jiggly, and it's kind of goofy, but I thought it was a really cool idea for a planet.
That is neat. One kind of fun little side thing, the sniper rifle that he uses was adapted into the official canon. It's the weapon that Din Djarin uses in The Mandalorian.
I think I'd read something like that, like it would made an appearance in The Mandalorian.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I know what you're talking about. Another thing that I do like about this planet is that it has, I mean, it's dinosaurs. Like, it's just alien dinosaurs.
Jello and dinosaurs. Always a good combination. Now, the big question is if they would have had Jello dinosaurs being served, would that have made it better? Would your mind have just been blown?
Sure. I mean, this would have been like the perfect thing for me as a kid, because I loved Jello and dinosaurs as a kid.
Nice. You have a good taste. I like it.
But this one of the giant dinosaurs, it has like a really goofy face, which is ridiculous. But
Yeah,
it starts,
everything in this thing has a goofy face.
yeah, but this is like specifically a cartoon face. It's not
True.
like they were trying to make it look serious and ended up goofy. It was like they purposely gave it googly eyes and just made it look ridiculous. And the way it eats, because it starts eating their ship, is just weird and hilarious. Like taking exaggerated munching movements.
You know what this kind of reminds me of just a little bit, and I don't know if it was like inspired by the art style or not, but did you ever see Schoolhouse Rock?
Hmm.
Like it kind of has like the color, maybe it's just a color palette, but it has tones of that. I feel
It
like.
does. I didn't think of that, but you're right. It does seem. I mean, maybe it's because it's the 70s, because I think Schoolhouse Rock was
True.
70s.
Yeah,
So
that's
maybe it's
true. That's
just
true.
the aesthetic of the decade. Who knows?
Yeah. I mean, Rocky and Bullwinkle kind of has that same kind of muted color palette too. So
Okay. I haven't seen a whole lot of that. I watched it some when I was a kid, but I don't remember much.
yeah, from what I remember of it, it's been years, but I mean, obviously, but I think it does a little bit.
So eventually, this dinosaur is shot by Boba Fett, who's writing another dinosaur thing, and he offers to help them. And they eventually get to the Millennium Falcon, and Chewbacca is like, I think he's ejecting the talisman, or he's trying to get rid of it
Yeah, he
destroy it
pushes it out into
somehow.
space or something. So
And Luke faints, and apparently there's some sort of virus from this talisman that only affects humans. And apparently the only way you can treat it is to hang people upside down to let the blood go to their head, which is a ridiculous cure.
hey, it's outer space. Don't knock it until you've tried it.
It gave Han Solo an excuse to not have to talk too much.
True. And we're all better because of that.
Yeah, because I, he has the worst character design of this. I cannot stand his ugly horse face.
Yeah, it is like there's that because I mean Luke has a pretty decent face, and but I mean Chewbacca's is definitely simple, but it's not like awful by any stretch. It's just odd. It is a
Mm-hmm.
truly, it is probably the best part of this, but it's also I don't know. It's so strange. That's probably why people like it. It's something
Mm-hmm.
different than like random people with cringy outfits and dialogue going on.
Mm-hmm. Eventually, they're going into the city to get treatment for this virus, Boba and Chewbacca, because they're not affected. And then it goes back to the quote unquote real world where the baby is like freaking out about the cartoon because Boba contacts Darth Vader. And like the baby is like right in the same room with the Imperial guards. And he's not really a baby. I'm just calling him a baby. I think he's supposed to be somewhere between 8 and 12.
Yeah,
So
I'd
he
say I
should
was
know
gonna say
better.
12. Yeah, but have you seen Lumpy?
Yes. He has some issues.
Yes. Like the only decent Wookiee outside of Chewie is Mala.
Yeah. So his freak out alerts the guard, and he comes over to see what the baby's doing, and he switches it to some kind of a number game with Arabic numerals like we use, not Star Wars numbers. I thought it was funny that everything is like normal English in this. Like in Star Wars, even though they talk in basic slash English, they still use, I think it's called Orabesh. They use like space numerals, like letters that you can't understand unless you have a translator.
Right,
But
exactly.
they
Like
didn't
all
do
the
that in
droids.
this.
See, and it might have been just a money thing. It could have been a like for the audiences, they didn't want to like take it far outside the realm of normality. Like
I
they wanted it to be
suppose.
familiar. I'm guessing, just given, I mean, TV now people like you look at subtitles. Like
Mm-hmm.
people won't, read subtitles, and I'm sure this to some extent could have been the same,
It could have
or
been.
maybe they look just enough different where you don't think about it.
Yeah, who knows? But anyways, the guard buys his number game excuse and leaves him alone to watch the cartoon.
Well, that's good. Lumpy's got some learning to do.
But as somehow R2D2 and C3PO intercept the transmission between Darth Vader and Boba Fett. So they realize they're in trouble, and Chewbacca and Boba are heading back with the serum, and they're attacked. Chewbacca blows up the ship that's chasing them, and I don't know if the ship chasing them was supposed to be a ruse, like Darth Vader and Boba planning this thing, like we're gonna make it look real good. We're gonna send some bad guys after you, so that you can escape from them or whatever. But they all die, so it was kind of a dumb plan if that was the case.
They kind of pull like a Marvel in the in Endgame. No, I'm sorry, in Infinity War, where everyone kind of turns into sand and blows away. That's kind of what happens with this ship. It just kind of like dissolves it, but on the edges.
Yeah, you're kind of right. It does.
Or it does the Jello thing that gets too hot and just goes.
It melts.
Yes,
Everything melts on Jello Planet.
it does. It does. You should make a movie about Jello Planet. I think
Star
I'd
Wars
watch
should
it.
set another movie on Jello Planet.
It should. They totally should. But have it be a serious movie set on Jello World.
And then somebody has to say the line, everything melts on Jello World.
But it has to be super like everything melts on Jello World.
We're just gonna end up making the next Star Wars special, but worse.
I think it'd be awesome. How could we do worse than this?
True. Ours will just be ironically bad. Theirs
Right,
was
exactly.
trying to be good and ended up bad. Ours will be
Exactly.
bad on purpose.
Yes, but it'll be awesomely bad. So that'll
Yes.
make it good.
We got to get the best guest stars too.
Absolutely. I mean, we should get Harvey Korman. No, wait, that won't work. We should get B. Arthur. No, never mind.
Carol Burnett. She's
Yeah, there
still
you go.
alive.
Yeah.
She could come in as an alien lady with 8 heads.
Yes. Oh, we could get Betty White too.
Every elderly lady who's still working in Hollywood come in, and they're each a head on this one alien. And they're all like fighting and bickering and quipping with each other.
I like it.
I would unironically love this.
Well, get started. Gotta get this thing into production.
We better do it soon.
Yeah.
Betty White may not last much longer.
Hey, don't you dare be slimming on Betty White.
Where were we?
Oh, so they get back to the ship and
Oh yeah, they're like they give them the serum and they're coming to, and you see Han's hideous face.
really have a problem with Han's hideous face. I mean, I don't blame you. It's pretty bad, but
That's my biggest takeaway. I like the Jello planet, the dinosaurs, and I hate Han's face.
and just the way he comes around, he's like, "Oh, what happened?" And it's like,
You,
okay,
you were turned into an evil horseman.
yeah, exactly.
That was the true power of the talisman.
With incredibly tiny eyes. I don't know why. Oh man. The next part with was it R2D2 that figured out that Boba Fett was bad?
Yeah. Well, I think both droids figured it out at the same time, but
But
they
the
tell
fact
them.
but the fact that 3PO didn't say anything. He just like is standing there and then like R2 starts going mad and jiggling like jello. And then everybody asks him what's wrong and 3PO goes,
Oh
"Well, he
yeah.
doesn't trust Boba." And it's like, "You didn't either. Why didn't you tell them that when they came back on board?"
Maybe he was waiting until the serum had been administered.
I suppose. He was waiting for the right dramatic moment.
Yeah.
And then they find out that Chewie had a premonition or had a thought that Boba wasn't good from the start because he just had a bad feeling about him.
He smelled bad.
Yes. That's the joke, the running joke.
Yeah. The end of
Yes.
that part. And only that part.
Yes.
So, back in the real world, the Imperial forces are trashing the house, tearing things apart, ripping off stuffed animals' heads, but only upstairs.
Right.
Only in the kids' room, because they go downstairs and everything is pristine. And the one guy tells the baby to go clean up your room,
Now
which
here's the
is
thing
so
that gets
stupidly evil.
Oh well, what he does later is pretty stupidly evil too. The one thing that kills me, okay, so you got the head guy and then you got maybe 2 or 3 stormtroopers. Is that what they did in every single house on Kashyyyk? Or was it just this house because they were feeling extra vengeful?
Yeah, I don't know. I think they just hated the baby and wanted to ruin his life.
See, I would have been all about hating on the grandpa. Because
Smash his
wow.
hair dryer.
Exactly. No more hair dryer VR unit for you.
It was, I mean, kind of unironically tragic because you did feel bad for the kid because he goes upstairs and he's like crying over the stuffed bantha. And I was like, oh, I can't
Poor
believe I'm
bantha.
feeling sorry for this lumpy baby.
And a lumpy bantha.
Yeah. So he starts cleaning up his room, but then he gets distracted with this thing, which you find out is a transmitter or a translator, something.
Trans something or another.
I
Some
think
kind of
it's
trans
both.
machine. Yeah.
Yeah. It comes with an instructional cassette featuring Harvey Korman again. He's everywhere in this.
Oh, he is. He's like three people? Because
At
he's the cook,
least.
the the instructional person and then the guy with the volcano head.
Yeah. he's he's almost a main character, except he's three characters.
Yeah, maybe he's Darth Vader as well.
I wouldn't put it past them.
True. I mean, he is a man of several faces. Not quite 1,000, but you know,
At least three.
maybe like 152.
Anyways, his character here is some kind of malfunctioning robot telling him how to put this transmitter thing together. And it took forever and was so annoying.
Yeah, this is the one part. I mean, the rest of it is what it is, but this particular part I do not get. Like, I know they're trying to make a joke about technology fading, but it stays up for it overstays its welcome by about 2.5 minutes.
It overstayed its welcome the second the robot started malfunctioning.
True. And then there was even the weird disclaimer at the start.
What was it? I don't remember.
It was something like, this particular thing is known for the fact
Oh,
that it
that's right.
malfunctions often, but it's still good quality. We swear it.
Yeah, that was weird.
Very strange. And I'm sure it was probably like, oh, hey, isn't it funny? Technology falls apart, yucca, yucca. But I don't know. It just
And
didn't.
companies will try and sell a defect as a quality that you should love.
Right, exactly. Yeah, it was. And again, they were going for humor. It kind of felt like an Art Carney bit, but like one that he would have rejected.
Maybe it was.
Very possibly.
So he's working on this thing, and you go back downstairs, and one of their many, many TVs lights up. And I didn't really understand what exactly was going on here because there's some sort of message about this thing is required viewing for all Imperial forces. And it talks like it's some sort of documentary about life on Tatooine. And I think they said that it's supposed to make the troops feel better about their lives by comparison. I don't remember exactly, but I think that was the gist of what they were going for, which was very weird.
That, yeah. I'm not sure like why it showed up on their TV specifically, unless maybe I don't know, the troopers were bored, so they popped it on.
But no, because it was like a live transmission
that's
for all
right.
forces. So
Right.
like, did every TV that was near the Imperial forces just light up and play this thing? I was so confused about the purpose of this, especially when you find out like this isn't like a video. This is live because it says it's live and unedited, but it's very obviously edited.
Right.
It has clips from all these different places around the bar and all the different aliens, and then it's like it turns into this thing about this B. Arthur character. She's a bartender, and she's being mercilessly hit on by the Harvey Korman character, the guy who has like a volcano in his head, but the volcano doesn't explode. He pours drinks into. This is like it was a bit from some sort of Saturday Night Live sketch making fun of Star Wars.
Very much so.
Instead of an actual Star Wars character.
The other thing with that whole thing was he assumed because B. Arthur, as the bartender, I'm trying to think what she said, like, I'll miss you until you come back, or, come back again, I'll be here, or something along those lines. Like he assumed that was specifically for him, but it's just what she says to everybody as they leave.
Yeah, I think that whole thing was supposed to be a riff on guys who actually think that way.
True.
Because, like, I've heard stories of, like, guys thinking that just a passing remark is some sort of grand romantic gesture.
True.
But this was just taking that and putting it on an alien planet.
And if it's going to happen someplace, it's going to happen on Tatooine.
This still begs the question of, like, why is this required viewing for all the Imperial forces?
Maybe they're part of the Lonely Hearts Club, too.
I don't know. But this is... It's supposed to be live, so it's just one of those things I'm endlessly confused by.
That's his whole thing.
But she eventually shoots him down, far too nicely, in my opinion, especially after he went behind the bar and grabbed her.
Yeah.
She ends up pouring a ton of liquid into his head hole, and he puts up his hood and is like all disappointed and sad. And then there's an emergency order from the Empire saying that Tatooine is on lockdown. All inhabitants have to go back to their homes. But for some reason, this message is airing on Kashyyyk or Gazook or whatever the planet is called at this point. It's being seen by the Wookiees and the troops in the Wookiees' home, which, I mean, could be a byproduct of the fact that it's being aired on Tatooine and they're supposed to be watching this thing take place. I don't know. I'm so confused.
I think that's probably what it is. It's like when you see like when you see a TV show and there's something on the TV, even whatever it is, if it's a weather warning or whatever, it's meant for the people on the TV, not for you.
Yeah, I
it's
suppose.
kind of a secondhand viewing. That's how I took it.
Yeah. Anyways, part of this part, anyways, you're watching with the Wookiees and the Stormtroopers. But then it goes back to the bar. I thought it was over because it went back to their home. But no, it's not over. It's not over by a long shot. It goes back to the bar, and she's trying to get everybody out. Nobody's leaving. She ends up promising everybody one more round. And then it turns into a musical for some reason. Because she's just singing randomly.
I actually didn't mind that part. I thought it was kind of cool. Just
it was fine. It was just bizarre.
Yes, it was very bizarre. It's like that one last drink before we go type of song. So
in any other movie, I wouldn't have had a problem with it. But just, I mean, this is the Star Wars Holiday Special, so I guess it fits right in. But if it was just like Star Wars proper, this is like, what?
Well, if Star Wars characters in general broke into song randomly, that would be kind of weird to start with. So.
and up until this point, I think that B. Arthur's character would make a good Star Wars character. Like, beyond the weird aliens hitting on her and everything else, just like her basic character as this bartender just trying to get by, I think she's a great character. And I think she would have made for a good Star Wars character, like in a show like The Mandalorian, because you get that one lady in that one episode who loves Grogu. Amy Sedaris plays her. I love her. She's just a weird side character who has just a specific job on Tatooine. I love the idea.
She's memorable.
Yes, but in this, it's weird because it turns into a musical.
Yeah, it was not the first thing you would have expected to happen. Fun fact about that, though, the big bouncer guy at the end was also Mala. He seemed like as Mala. Yeah.
Oh, wow. Okay. I was also thinking, too, with this whole thing, if this is happening live, like, I'm pretty sure they said it was live, and Tatooine is supposed to be on lockdown, and all of these people are blatantly defying the orders, refusing to leave, and even pointing a gun at her until she gives them a drink. Why isn't the Empire coming in and arresting all these people? Because they're enforcing this mandatory lockdown. They're just letting them get away with this.
Because they were enjoying B. Arthur singing?
Sure. That makes about as much sense as anything else in this.
That's all I got.
Most of this, I'm obviously overthinking, but I'm doing it on purpose because this whole thing is ridiculous.
Oh, 100%.
Eventually, she does get everyone to leave, except she goes back to her bar, and the volcano head guy pops out with flowers. And I don't know if they were supposed to insinuate that this is a romantic ending or what, but I'm like, I would have tossed him out a window.
They didn't have any windows, though.
Drag him to the door and throw him out.
Get the bouncer to toss his ass out.
Yeah.
It just gets weirder and weirder. Just like, well, what's next? It's never what you think.
Well, what's next is you go back to the Wookiee's house and there's an alarm saying that they need to return to base. But apparently it's the kid upstairs with his little transmitter machine making them think they have to leave. except they leave one stormtrooper behind who is supposed to wait for Chewbacca. So they're all gone. The one's left. And then Chewbacca and Han Solo do come home just then. But the stormtrooper, like, runs out. And then they toss him over the edge of the treehouse. Presumably to his death.
Yeah. Well, one thing, too, the stormtrooper goes up and sees that Lumpy has...
that's right. Yeah.
The only reason I bring this up is because I think it's probably my favorite, like, unintentionally funny section of the entire thing. So, like, the stormtrooper smashes the transmitter thing, and then Lumpy and him, like, run down the stairs. And I was trying to figure out who was, like, in more danger of falling on their face. Poor Lumpy, looking through a mask and holes that are just eye-sized, and all the fur and stuff. Or a stormtrooper that can't see anything.
Yeah, really, especially because I don't think those stairs had handrails, did they?
Oh no, definitely.
No, they didn't. So
I think they came down at a very, very, very safe speed.
But yeah, so I guess they go outside because he was being chased, and that's when Han Solo and Chewbacca come back and toss the guy over the railing. So he's dead. Why did they not think that anyone would come investigate this? I mean, the shopkeeper shows up like a Deus Ex Machina and like gets them out of it ridiculously.
They basically pull a second version of the prison part where they're trying to save Leia. Basically, I mean, that's essentially what it seemed like to me. Like the shopkeeper gets on the horn and says, "Oh, well, he appeared at this house and he robbed the Wookiee family of a bunch of food and he robbed me of several goods and then he took off into the wilderness."
Yeah. The thing that I found the weirdest, though, is like Han... I mean, we could just chalk this up to Harrison Ford not wanting to be there, but he didn't seem at all worried that this was going to cause any problem for the Chewbacca family. Like, if it were me, I would be like, pack your bags. We are leaving now. They are going to be on this place in seconds. We just murdered this guy. We got to get out of here.
But leave Grandpa behind. We don't have to worry about him. Leave him holding the stormtrooper helmet.
Frame Grandpa.
In this case, most of the time I would say that'd be bad, but in this case, I am 100% okay with that.
Yeah. So Han is gone. The shopkeeper comes in, makes excuses, and the Empire, for some reason, completely believes him. It's like he had the thinnest, flimsiest excuse, and they just totally bought it.
Well, I mean, have you seen Stormtrooper aim?
Yeah. So the shopkeeper wishes them all a happy life day, and then he leaves as well. And then the rest of this, I have zero idea what's happening. They all go over to the bookshelf and get these little orb thingies with like light up wire rings inside. They like hold them together and then lift them in the air. And I thought this was supposed to be like some sort of symbolic gesture for Life Day. But then they're all floating in outer space. They're wearing red robes. They're all holding their little orb thingies. And then there's like a flowing line of Wookiees walking through space into a sun. And then it's like the sun is almost exploding. And then they're all in a cave for some reason. And then R2-D2 and C-3PO are there. Like, why? Like, if they've just transported themselves to a Wookiee magical cave with their Life Day devices, how did R2-D2 and C-3PO get there? And then, like, they're wishing everybody happy Life Day. And then they say that they wish they were more than mechanical beings so they could share in these feelings with them. And then suddenly Luke, Leia, and Han are all there. And I'm like, what is happening? And then Han is very woodenly tells them they all mean a lot to him. And then Leia gives some kind of a speech about how this day belongs to the Wookiees, but they share in the hope that they'll work together to defeat evil or something. And then she sings a whole song about it. And as much as I'm making fun of it, this is my favorite part of the whole thing.
It is the most consistent part. It's not broken up by Jefferson Starship or weird acrobats or like horse face people.
It's so bizarre, but there's just something about it that it feels so alien. It feels like an actual alien ritual that I kind of love it, even though I have
awesome.
no idea what's going on.
That's awesome. That's amazing. If you can pull something good from it, that's incredible. I would assume that like the little orbs, it's like bringing together people across the galaxy, like bringing everybody together regardless of where you are. Like those feelings of love you have for other people.
Yeah.
I would think.
But like, do they literally transport across the galaxy through space into a star that's somehow also a cave?
My assumption is you're there in spirit.
Okay.
And how R2D2 and C3PO got there, my assumption is with that they're close to Chewie's heart. And so by some miracle of the Force or something, they are able to be there too. It could just be fancy editing.
That makes more sense. I like your explanation. Because there's, like, in Star Wars Rebels, there's some weird trans-dimensional stuff in some episodes. This makes about as much sense as some of that. So we'll go with that. I like that idea.
Oh, I forgot one thing back from the when the Stormtrooper goes over the edge and falls to his death. He does a Willem scream.
Yes, I should have mentioned that, but yes, it's the very obvious, not even trying to hide it, it's a Willem scream.
Oh yeah. Well, no, that is one of those things that has become one of the things that Star Wars is known to have. So.
That's true.
I'm glad that you found some kind of enjoyability in this beyond just the sheer and utter weirdness.
The whole entire movie was weird, but this is weird in a different way that actually felt like it had some sort of meaning, even if I didn't understand it. And I liked that about it.
Nice.
But then after Leia's song, there's this montage of scenes from the movie, and I think from the special too. Like, it just a montage of Star Wars scenes.
Mm-hmm.
But it's over Chewbacca's head, so I think it's supposed to be him remembering all these things.
Yeah, that's exactly what it's supposed to be.
And then they're all back home. And, like, if you're right about them being there in spirit, then maybe they never left home. So they're all around the dinner table. All their orbs are in the middle, and they all hold hands and bow their heads like they're praying. And then that's the end.
I'm guessing that's probably like they were there at the table the entire time, but then spiritually they were elsewhere.
I think you're probably right. I didn't get that while it was happening, but I think you're probably right.
I did find one thing here that might explain something. So the guy that helped write the special, Bruce Valanche, admitted he was using cocaine heavily.
Oh no.
During this time.
So maybe this thing that I thought was this deep, meaningful thing
No.
that I didn't
I mean the entire special, not specifically this part.
Okay. Well, that makes sense for the whole special.
Oh man. So now you see why this is famous and infamous.
Yes, definitely.
Lucas tried to buy up, so there's the master copies that were put on by all the broadcast stations. Mm-hmm. He attempted to buy them all back. And this thing aired all over the place. Canada and Australia and the States and New Zealand and kind of all over the place. So, but it only aired once.
I can see why.
Yes. It's also the only Star Wars movie prior to the official sequel trilogy that didn't have a George Lucas director's cut or special edition. Which again, understandable.
I kind of wish that he would have taken it and done some sort of a cut that made it make more sense.
I'm not sure that's possible though with this.
You're
Really?
right.
I mean,
You're right. It's
just
true.
generally, even removing some of the or some of the like the acts, or moving them around. There's no way. I don't think there's any way to do that.
No, you're right. And if you take out all the weird skits and music numbers and music videos and cartoons, what you're left with is a very boring story.
Yeah. Like we said, the whole like after the stormtroopers show up, like it's okay for a little bit, but then it kind of gets stuck in that like second act rut, and it
Mm,
never really gets out of that, like the last 10 minutes.
yeah. Oh well.
So, fine, what are your thoughts on this having watched it?
I will probably never watch this again in its entirety, but I did like that end scene. I might watch that again.
Make it a Christmas normal Christmas thing?
Probably not. I could lie and say yes, but I don't think so. I
No, that's
mean,
okay.
I'll probably watch it a couple scenes once in a while if I think about them, but I'm probably going to forget most of this because a lot of it, when it's not being bizarre, is very forgettable.
Yeah, I would agree. Like you said, I forget all the Wookiee stuff. It's the strange like
Yeah,
acts that stick with you. The
yeah,
Jefferson Starship one is probably the most generally forgettable. That
yeah.
and the acrobats, like the cooking segment, the whole cantina scene, the animated piece, obviously the end bit. Yeah, I don't know. It's just it's such a weird experience.
Very.
Like as a Star Wars fan, I don't know if it's enriching to know this exists or if it's, awful to know it exists. Like I love the fact that it exists because it is so strange, and it goes to show you that weird stuff does make it.
Yeah, I'm glad it exists, but I'm also glad that it's not canon. Anyways, I think that's probably going to be it for now.
True, true, very true. Well, it's been a pleasure as always.
Yes.
Great way to start off the Christmas season.
Oh, yes. Perfect intro to the holidays.
Agreed.
Do you want to let people know where they can find you?
Oh, you can find me not on the planet of Kazook or Kashyyyk. I am not in a treehouse that also doubles as a theater. You can you can find me on YouTube at Trivial Theater, and that's Trivial Theater with an ER, not an RE, because I am not that fancy and I want to try and avoid Itchy tracking me down. You can also find me on Twitter at trivia_chick.
Okay, I'll have that linked below. And until next time, when maybe we'll watch the other Star Wars Holiday Special that I forgot existed, but now I kind of want to watch it just to see what it's like.
Oh, it's supposed to be so cute. Like it's genuinely supposed to be pretty funny.
Okay, well, we should do that then at some
That'd
point.
be awesome to watch something decent with you for once. Not even sure how to take that.
Okay, well, until next time.
Merry Christmas, Happy Holidays,
Happy Life Day!
Happy Life Day. Oh yeah, that's right. Happy Life Day.
Thanks for listening to this special Christmas episode of the podcast. If you like what you've heard, then don't forget to subscribe on whatever platform you prefer, and of course make sure to follow my co-hosts as well. Any relevant links will be in the description for easy access, and we'll see you soon for another brand new episode of the show. Thanks for listening, and Merry Christmas!